All right. Looks like we're live. How's it going, everyone? It is the middle of the night here. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. I am down here keeping an eye on Reed and Paley. And I mentioned in an earlier video on this that if anyone wanted to talk about anything, and I'm just sitting down here all night long, could always talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. And so just click on a live button. Fortunately, Vocab was up too, so asked if he wanted to jump on with me, and here he is. So,
I am always up.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of sleep, man. You seem like you get like 4 or 5 hours, based on what I've seen.
I get less than that, and it's totally unhealthy.
Yeah, that eventually catches up with you.
Yes, I will definitely die early. And be fat when I die, also. Fatter than I presently am.
Yeah. Hey, oh, look at that.
What?
Hold up. We got,
Everything looks fine, by the way. I'm looking.
Comments on Fury versus Wilder.
David, what is your opinion of the Fury versus Wilder fight?
No. That was an actual comment suggestion.
I know, I see it, but I'm just like doing it too. I'm like leading you into it.
No, that was actually the first heavyweight fight that I've been interested in a while. So a little before my time, you had the 1970s, and that was kind of the best generation of heavyweight fighters, right? So that's where you got Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and Sonny Liston, all these guys, right? Best generation. And then there's kind of nothing really exciting until you get to Mike Tyson. And then Mike Tyson's career goes down in flames, and then you get the 90s, and you got Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe and so on, and just wasn't quite as interesting, although they had some good fights. And then more recently, for a while, you have all these giant white guys come out of nowhere, right? From like Russia and Ukraine, and they're all like 6'9", 6'7", 6'10". Not really that tall, but that one guy was what was his name? Man, it's late at night. Anyway, there was one dude who was like 7 feet tall, looked like a monster in a horror movie. But you had all these guys come out of nowhere and stuff. And Klitschko brothers reigned supreme for a while, but nothing. It just wasn't as exciting as like the Tyson era. And then a couple years ago, you got Tyson Fury finally beats Klitschko. This guy's undefeated, but he's got an interesting backstory. He's a gypsy, right? U.S., you might not know who these gypsies are. They're like these, just like the lowest of the low in Great Britain. They're like the trailer park I'm from a West Virginia trailer park, so I can say this. They're like they're lower than trailer park trash, because in West Virginia trailer park, you generally you stayed in you've got a solid place to stay, whereas the gypsies, they're just moving all around, and they're known for being like thieves and fighters and stuff like this. And anyway, this giant corn-fed mule Tyson Fury comes out, and he's got like this weird style because he's 6'9". He was huge. He doesn't look like he should be fast with his, bobbing and weaving and stuff like that. But he's got like this super weird fighting style. He plays mind games with people. He likes to tease them and stuff like that. And in the ring during the fight, he likes to do taunting, which you see a lot in MMA. You see tons of like taunting and stuff like that. And sometimes it costs people, right? Sometimes people, they put their hands out and stuff and, say, hit me, and someone clocks them and just knocks them clean out. But this giant dude has this like amazing head movement, which isn't, it's not normal, right? Like your normal boxers have like a rhythm, right? Even with like Tyson, he had his, he had that peekaboo style where he's moving back and forth to make it hard to hit him. But there's kind of a rhythm to it. Whereas this Tyson Fury guy, he's doing all these like spastic motions all the time. You can't figure out what he's doing. You think there's no way he's going to keep this up for 12 rounds because he's burning too much energy. He's a giant. But I don't know what I don't know what kind of Wheaties he eats in the morning, but he keeps it up. And so, but anyway, the reason he was interesting was I mentioned it a couple years ago, right after he won the heavyweight championship. He tweeted out my testimony video just nowhere. I didn't send it to him or anything. He randomly tweets out my testimony video. So I thought that was cool, and I was like, oh, let me follow this guy. And then he had a mental meltdown. So he ballooned up to like 450 pounds, was doing drugs and everything else, got all his belts stripped from him, and the only thing he had left was he's the lineal champion, right? That's the guy who there's no belt that you wear for it. You're the man who beat the man. So he's the guy who beat Klitschko. So you kind of can't be the man until you beat the man who beat the man. So anyway, this guy comes out of retirement. I guess he wasn't really retired. He was just not doing anything. So he goes from 450 pounds down to like 265 pounds, and then he's going to fight Deontay Wilder, who's a knockout artist. He's also undefeated. So they're both undefeated. So that's why it was interesting. You've also got Joshua, who's undefeated. So you got these three undefeated fighters who Joshua and Wilder are kind of knockout artists, right? And normally that's my favorite kind of fighter, right? Tyson's a knockout artist. These guys have different fighting styles, but they're just more exciting fights than seeing fights go the distance and come down to decision. And so normally I would be favoring the knockout artist, but with Tyson Fury, it's kind of a Cinderella story where this guy he wasn't supposed to become heavyweight champion of the world, but he did. And then he screws that up, loses it, and then so he's making a comeback. And so it's kind of it's a kind of a come behind underdog story. And so you want to see him make something of his life again. And so anyway, they just fought. Again, haven't been really interested in the heavyweights in a long time. So went ahead and watched that, and it was awesome. Tyson Fury is not boring to watch. He's entertaining the entire time. And then the fight. Well, by the way, just so you know, that the most people said that Deontay is going to win. Right? Again, he was 40-0, 39 knockouts. With that said, he wasn't fighting the same caliber of fighters as certain fighters in the past had fought. Right? So. Again, he's not in one of those great generations of boxers. So a lot of the people that he's fought to get to 40-0 weren't the greatest fighters. So Tyson Fury is going to be the best guy that this guy had fought. But he is a knockout artist. He has this super fast right hand. He has an awesome left hook, and he can just end a fight in an instant. And so you're thinking Tyson Fury. If he's at all out of practice, if he's at all rusty, he's not going to be able to dodge those punches for 12 rounds. He's going to get knocked out. If by some odd chance he is Tyson Fury and he is able to dodge those punches, then it will go the distance and it'll come down to the decision, and Tyson Fury will probably win the decision because if you watch these kinds of fights, someone like Tyson Fury, he's like Money Mayweather in the sense that he'll build up points throughout the fight, and if you don't knock him out, he's just going to win on points. Whereas Deontay Wilder, he's trying to knock him out the entire time, so he's not building up those points because he's trying to knock him out with these big punches, and so he's not building up a lot of points with jabs and so on. And so if it goes the distance, the idea would be that Tyson Fury would win, and to most people, that's what it looked like happened. Looked like Tyson Fury clearly won. He got knocked down twice. One looked like more like he was off balance. One looked like he might have gotten knocked out, but for some reason he was able to spring right back up. But he was pretty dominant the entire fight in terms of points, so should have won. Turned out to be a draw, and not terribly upset about that because it means they're obviously gonna have a rematch, and I think Deontay will have to adapt to that. I think he's gonna realize, hey, hard to knock this guy out. I need to be building up points throughout the fight like he does, so that if it comes down to a decision, which it might with this guy's spastic head movements and stuff like that, then Yep, got to do with that. Anyway, those are my fight thoughts. You have any thoughts on that, Vocab? You probably don't even watch fights because it's too violent. Hey, where'd you go?
I just heard you freeze up for a second, or maybe it's on my end. But I have a couple comments.
You froze up.
One is, people need to take you when you're imitating his spastic head movements. Someone needs to take that and turn that into a GIF or a GIF, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Number one. Number two, if I could briefly tell you about my favorite era of boxing, it's the era of Soda Popinski. You know, he came out with that bottle.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, man.
He's clearly always drunk, and then I really like King Hippo's style where he would drop his
I like
pants.
King Hippo.
Bald Bull had this bull charge that was quite amazing. Don Flamenco would always taunt the opponent. You know, these are flamboyant characters. I don't think this era will ever be duplicated. You can't figure out the Great Tiger with his blinking ruby and his turban.
Hey, quit looking at the list. I can name everyone without looking at the list, man.
And also, there's Glass Joe, who he was just kind of a mess, you know, but nonetheless,
Hold up. Piston Honda, Von Kaiser, Sandman, Mr. Sandman. Who's left? I'm trying to think. Hey, I remember.
Hold on, I'm giving you a hint.
Hey, I was in
Macho Man.
I was in elementary school when I got a Nintendo, which was a big deal if you're poor, right? And so I got that, and my grandma gave me the game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, right? So I put that in there. Didn't take long to beat Glass Joe, Von Kaiser, Piston Honda, little bit trickier, but I beat those three the first night I got it, and then I got to Don Flamenco, and he comes out doing the dance with that flower, and I remember yelling, "He's gay! I'll kill this dude!" Right? Not in any sort of sense like anyone's thinking. I'm just thinking, if this guy's a fighter, and he's gay. What is this, right? Guys, keep in mind I was a kid and little kid, and I thought this was hilarious. And I remember my dad was standing sort of in the back, and he goes, "This guy's about to knock your head off." And yep, he came out with those. He came out with that. I don't know what that was. It's not an uppercut. Anyway, he comes up with this. Don Flamenco killed me, and I did not beat Don Flamenco that night.
He was a ladies' man, bro.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that, right? You just think, well, that's what you're if you're a West Virginia trailer park kid, right? If you saw most Europeans, you'd be thinking, I could beat up these guys, right? Even though lots of these guys are like total ladies' men. You know what I mean? like if I saw like Guillaume or something like that when I was a kid, I'd have been like, what is this, right? Alex, any of these guys, any of these European guys, especially like French guys. Yeah.
Oh man, you should at least let me finish my bit though. You're like totally just this Punch-Out. You're looking at the list.
Well, yeah, but I just want people to know. Hey, I know what I'm talking about. You're reading off a list. I got all this in my head.
I'm clearly going into a bit where I'm doing like video game characters, you know. And
wait a minute. Wait, I'm trying to remember if I remember the code to get to Mike Tyson. There was a code you could enter.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I know what you're talking about. He was hard to beat, though, until you figured out his little pattern. But
I remember the Contra code. Up, down, left, right, BA, select, start if you're playing double players, and then just leave out the select if you're playing solo.
Yes, David Wood.
Wait, did you want to finish your bit?
No, it's done, bro. It's done.
Hey, John's over there saying that was his game.
John McRae?
Yeah, isn't he like 12 years old?
Young?
Huh?
Yeah, isn't he too young for that?
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't he just a twinkle in his dad's eye when that came out?
I'm saying he should have been like at the earliest, like what, Nintendo 64 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe he was like a vintage dude. Maybe he went back or something like that. I don't know. Well, maybe because he was into boxing. Maybe, I don't know. The only fighting game, in all sincerity, I ever got into was on Sony PlayStation. Mm-hmm. They had a game called Star Wars Masters of Taras Kasai. Mm-hmm. And the gimmick was there was a unique fighting form in the Star Wars universe that both Jedi and normal people could learn that would make them formidable. Mm-hmm. And here's what's so crazy. Whether you liked it or not, in the Han Solo movie, that chick, Kiera, whatever her name is, does all these fancy moves. And the Han Solo character's like, what was that? And she's like, that's Taras Kasai. And I was like, what? They gave a total Easter egg to giant nerds like myself to a freaking video game that was a Star Wars video game. But it was awesome because you could have like the green pig guards, Gamorrean guards, fighting Luke Skywalker. If you were the Darth Vader character, you could shoot force lightning at Chewbacca. Anyways, that was the only fighting game I really ever got into. You know, there's a Wu-Tang fighting game, and they have like. Anyways, okay, we'll stop. Hey, there's some people in the super chat saying stuff and asking questions.
Oh, yeah?
James Ballary just gave in the super chat and says, "God bless you guys," and also Edward Armatutu says, "David, please explain comment on Luke 9:26." I don't know if you want to do that now. We've also got. Oh, actually, he gave twice in the super chat for that question. He says, "I'm a Christian. I want to understand it."
Luke 9:26.
So, yeah, look.
Okay.
I'll open it up.
I got it open here. I got Luke 9.
Another super chatter, I think they're joking, says, comment on the Irish potato famine. Another super chatter says, God bless you and your family, David. So I got Luke 9:26 up as well.
Let's go ahead and read the passage about taking up your cross.
All right, Luke 9:26. Hold on, taking up your cross. That's
Wait.
not what I have.
Wait.
No, here's what I have. I have, for whoever is ashamed of me and of my words, of him will the Son of Man...
Yeah. I said read the passage. So start at like verse 23 to get the context.
Okay, my bad. Sorry, I got to take my head out of punch out. All right, verse 23. And he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? For whoever is ashamed of me and of my words, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed, and when he comes in his glory, and in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. But I tell you truly, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God.
So you're reading the ESV there.
Yes, I am. What do you usually use?
This year, the ESV.
Okay.
That's how I knew you had it, because that's what I had open.
All right. Well, yeah, it's discipleship, but it looks like it's not just to the 12. It looks like it's to all. Verse 23. Come after me, of course. I'm kind of working my way through the passage. Come after me means to be a disciple. And so Jesus really is giving the requirements for discipleship there. One, they have to deny themselves. What that means is that you give up personal autonomy. You know, you give up the so-called right to control your life. That's what it means to deny yourself. So firstly, disciples must deny themselves. Secondly, they must take up their cross. That means a full-on commitment to Christ. And it's almost like you're dying to self because you're committing all the way to rejection and perhaps death. It's a all-out idea there. Thirdly, follow me. I think then it would just mean to be with the disciples and go where they would go. Nowadays, I think it would be part of the church community and you imitate Jesus. Verse 24, save his life, lose it. It just has to do sort of there's an inverse of expectation in the gospel. So you want to save your life, you have to lose your life. You know, it's sort of this contrarian thinking that Jesus often promotes. Verse 25, it's saying that even if you did gain the whole world, which seems like an amazing thing to do, I mean, that's what Cobra Commander always wanted to do. That's what villains always want to do. They want to control the whole world, right? Mm-hmm. But here Jesus is saying even if you could do that, that doesn't nearly have the same amount of value as being with God forever, as knowing God, your creator. And the idea of being ashamed of Jesus is where you would deny him. You know, you wouldn't acknowledge him. You would deny him. I think maybe you get a snapshot of that with what Peter did. So, you know, he was ashamed of Jesus. At that time, he denied even knowing him. And Jesus then is saying, I think he's saying that if that's sort of your pattern, if that's the way you are, yet you say you're a disciple, then when Jesus comes in his glory, which is his second coming, when Jesus returns again to establish his kingdom forever, that you won't be listed among the disciples because it's clear you weren't. I mean, that's sort of how I see it as. And then the last thing I would comment, and then anything. I mean, he was asking you, not me. I was just kind of buy you time, really. But I think the sum standing here. Now I know you're not. The person didn't ask about 9:27. But just
hang on. Edward, are you asking Are you asking about this in the context of Muslims who try to draw a parallel between this and like say that this is a triad? Just go ahead and comment if that's what you mean, because he just said, which I mean I thought was probably one of the worst responses to anything I've ever heard in my entire life, right? So is that what you're referring to?
I think so, because he says
you don't need to jump in on Super Chat. Just tell us if that's what you're talking about, because vocabs, we're breaking down the meaning of the passage, which I don't think is terribly confusing, right? If you're ashamed of Jesus and his teachings and so on, it's going to be a shame to you, right?
Yeah, he says it talks about the holy angels, not the spirit. So I do think that's what he was saying.
Yeah, just let him confirm if he's thinking of something specific like that, because this recently came up. Muslims have started using this, which again, it's one of the silliest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay, yeah, he is asking about hijab's response. So think about this. So vocab, go ahead and read the end of Matthew, where you've got the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So matter of fact, go ahead and read the whole Great Commission there, and then we'll compare it with this.
I'm here.
Matter of fact, I mean, I'm surprised anyone is actually even thinking about that objection seriously. But if it is an issue, I'll go ahead and make a video about it, because that's a really easy one to respond to. But go ahead.
Matthew chapter 28, verses 16 through 20. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted.
Notice they're worshiping Jesus here. It would have been a good time for him to say, hey, stop worshiping me. Go ahead.
And Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me.
Hey, now check this out. All authority in heaven and on earth. And some people will point out, but it says given to him, right? Given to him. Well, yeah, think about this in the context of the whole chronology of Jesus, right? He is the eternal divine Son. He lowers himself, right? So read John 1 and Philippians 2. Which talks about the incarnation, Jesus emptying himself in order to take on human nature. But then he lives as a human, and then you have his death for sins and resurrection, and then he gets that glory back. And so you can read right here, especially the Great Commission in Matthew 28. Read that along with the prophecy in Daniel 7, where the Son of Man comes before the Ancient of Days. So this is the Son coming before the Father, and he receives kingdom and the divine service or worship that is due only to God. He receives this, and all people of all nations are going to worship him. So read that in that context. But so anyway, the idea here, all authority in heaven and on earth is given to Jesus. He's completed his work, and now the glory that he's laid aside, he gets back. But go ahead.
Another passage on that to look at is 1 Corinthians 15:28. I think that relates. But continuing on, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age.
So Jesus is with them always, with all his followers, always to the end of the age. And says right there, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, a couple interesting things there. One, again, Jesus is being worshipped, and he says that he now has all authority in heaven and on earth. What mere human being would say that he has all authority in heaven and on earth in a context where people are worshiping him? If Jesus were just a mere prophet, he should be rebuking them, right? But you get to baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Notice it's name, singular, not names. And so it's treating Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are clearly plural, but treating them as three in one way and one in another way, which that doesn't give you a full doctrine of the Trinity there, but once you combine it with what the rest of Scripture says, it's clearly a Trinitarian passage. And so I didn't bring that up, just to be clear. I didn't bring that up. He brought it up in order to respond to it. But think about this, because now you can see sort of Hijab's approach, which is to give really, really silly responses to things, but his Muslim audience doesn't understand how silly these things are. But think about this. Jesus says his disciples are supposed to go out and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Why is this relevant? Well, in Scripture, the Father is clearly God, the Son is God, and the Spirit is God. And here, they're mentioned all together, which happens several times in Scripture, but they're mentioned all together. And this is who we're baptized into, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now, so the claim that this is a Trinitarian verse would have to do with, hey, we know that the Father is divine. We know that the Son is divine. We know that the Spirit is divine. Here they are mentioned all together, and this is who, this is the name that we're baptized into, right? So this is just something where it sort of brings it all together. Now, the response from Muhammad Hijab is this. Well, in Luke 9:26, Jesus says, whoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. So notice, it mentions the Son and the Father and the holy angels. So are you saying that the holy angels are God now? So notice the assumption, which is a false assumption. Almost everything he says is based on some sort of false assumption. He seems to think that the Christian argument goes like this. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are mentioned together, and therefore they're all God. The response would be, Father, Son, and holy angels are mentioned together, therefore they would all be God. Mm-hmm. So that's his response. Well, what's the problem? Well, I've never heard anyone in my entire life say Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are mentioned together, therefore they're all God. Never heard anyone say that. What's he responding to? It's a made-up argument. He's giving a made-up Christian claim and then attacking the made-up Christian claim. What's that? What's that again? It's called a straw man, right? So if you haven't studied logic, a straw man is where you don't attack your actual opponent's position. You build something that kind of looks like it, a straw man, like you take a shirt and stuff it, fill it up with straw, and then you start attacking that, even though it's not your opponent's real position. So no Christian has ever said, since Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are mentioned together in a verse, therefore they're all God. You could find all kinds of things mentioned together in Scripture that, of course, that wouldn't mean that they're God. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are God because throughout Scripture, they're God. They have divine attributes. They have attributes that are unique to God. And what you have here is they're mentioned together as the name into which we are baptized. And so it's just a massive mischaracterization. So hope that helps. Let us know if that clarifies things. And again, if you want something short and sweet on that, I can go ahead and respond to it. But that's a situation where it seems so silly to me that it's just amazing that Muslims will hear that sort of thing and think, "Oh, what a great argument! What a great response!" You think that's a great you think that's a great response to the doctrine of the Trinity, Vocab?
No, of course not. But I will tell you, I did look at the the live chat, and a few people were saying, "David, could you please make a video about it?" And he appreciated our answer, but did say that Hijab confused him with that. If I could share something real quick, a perfect passage to correspond with Luke 9:27 is really 1 Thessalonians 4. I'll just read it real quick, and you'll see how that's really the right place you want to compare and contrast, because it's not a Trinitarian passage. That's not the point. It's an eschatological passage that has to do with the return of Christ, the second coming. And so Luke 9, correlates with First Thessalonians, and I'll show you specifically the angels part, and you'll understand. But we do not, this is First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13, by the way. But we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep. So he's saying, I want you to be aware about Christians who have died. Verse 13 continued, that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. Saying we have hope because Christ is coming back and they'll be resurrected. Verse 14, for since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so, through Jesus, God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep. So you see, it's not only the angels who return, but it's those who are dead Christians who will now be glorified in their final bodies. Verse 15, for this we declare to you by a word from the Lord, that we who are alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord. And so see, there's a key. That's what it's talking about. The coming of the Lord. And so he's saying this is from God himself. Will not precede those who have fallen asleep, saying they will not die. And here's the key verse. Why I wanted to read this. For the Lord himself would ascend from heaven with a cry of command, with the voice of an archangel, with the sound of the trumpet of God. The dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will always be with the Lord. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. So the key there is, you see, and there's other places where this is seen, but you see, essentially, Jesus, the conquering king, returning to establish his kingdom with his army. Who is his host as the Lord of hosts? It's his angels. And you see in that passage there, Michael, who blows or in some way signifies, the trumpet of God, signifying this sort of finalized victory that happens at the second advent. And so that's really what's going on, and that's why the angels are mentioned. They're, in essence, the Lord of hosts' army. Mm-hmm. It's not a trinity. It's not trying to talk about members of the Trinity or anything, like the baptismal formula clearly is. Mm-hmm. Got a couple more super chatters, by the way. You got Piv Viddle. Can you speak to Jama Termity? Sorry, Hadith 316.
You've been hanging out with me all this time. You're struggling with Jamiat Termity pronunciation?
Yes. I always have bad pronunciation. Could it be revealing Allah's sin? Jama Termity 3169. Could it be revealing Allah's... Oh, Shin. I'm sorry. Man, it's late for me, too. I'm sorry. Can you speak to Jama Termity Hadith 3169? Could it be revealing Allah's shin? Now, you guys may think I'm really dumb, but really what I'm doing, I'm giving David time to look it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Well, I didn't, this is a borrowed laptop. My one where I have all the Islamic sources on it is not something, it's kind of old, so I wouldn't try to live stream on it. But,
well, want me to,
No, I just went to the site where I download them. By the way, the site, it's kalamullah.com. KALAMULLAH.com. When you see in my videos that I have that I'm putting the sources up on the screen, it's usually not because I'm taking pictures of the actual Muslim sources. That would take too long. I have the source. I have the hard copies, but you can get the PDFs of the main collections of hadiths in English and Arabic, which is the same edition that is in the print book. In other words, they all match up. So I can have a book and have a hard copy and be pointing to something, but also have the PDF. So very helpful. So anyway, I pulled that up. Let's go ahead and check out the passage. So Jamiat Termity 31. It's taking a while to scroll through this on this. Said 31 what?
3169. They don't have colons or anything like that. It's just 3169.
Okay.
So
hopefully we're using the same numbering system right here. Whoops. All right, 3169 in this edition. Imran bin Hussein narrated, "We were with the Prophet on a journey when some of his companions fell behind, so the Messenger of Allah raised his voice, reciting these two ayat. O mankind, have taqwa of your Lord. Verily, the earthquake of the hour is a terrible thing. up to his saying, but Allah's torment is severe. When his companions heard that, they hastened to catch up with him, since they knew that he had something to say. He said, "Do you know what day that is? That is the day when Adam will be called. His Lord will call him and say, 'O Adam, send forth those who are to be sent to the fire.' He will say, 'O Lord, how many are to be sent to the fire?' He will say, 'From every 1,000, there are 999 for the fire and one for paradise.' So the people despaired, as if they would not smile again. When the messenger of Allah saw the state of his companions, he said, 'Strive hard and receive the good news. By the one in whose hand is the soul of Muhammad, you will be counted with two creations who are immense in numbers, Yajuj and Majuj, then those who have died among the progeny of Adam and the progeny of Iblis.' He said, so some of the people's grief went away, and he said, 'Strive hard and receive the good news. By the one in whose hand is the soul of Muhammad among mankind, you are but like the mole on the flank of a camel, or a mark on the foreleg of a beast.'" So, Piv, unless we're using a different numbering system, what's the revealing here? Said, could it be revealing the shin?
Trying to see if he's followed up. I don't see, by the way, Samuel G in the live chat. Much love to you. I'm looking to see if he did a follow-up comment, and I don't see it. Although there is an article by Sam on Answering Islam called "The Annihilation of Allah," and he does talk about what seems to be the shin of Allah, but it's in other places. For example,
there's a bunch of passages on the shin of Allah. So yeah, I'm not sure because there are two different editions of Tirmidhi. There's this one, that's the Darus Salam edition, but there's an earlier online edition which may use a different numbering system. So I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the actual same passage here, and if so.
If Allah plays soccer, does he have to wear shin guards?
Well, he has a shin.
I was just wondering. So I guess that'd be a holy shin. All right, I don't see any follow up by him that I can make out. It's tricky because there's like almost 350 people watching, so he might get lost in the shuffle. But I do know
if he had a specific issue that's related to the series Anthony and I are doing on Allah's physical body and Allah's physical parts, then can always post it as a comment on one of those videos. We are going to spend one whole live stream just going through the comments on those videos. So if you had something specific and you wanted to bring up a specific passage, you can go ahead and leave a comment on that. I'm thinking because Anthony and I have been doing live streams, but live streams are the ones we were doing are generally an hour long, and so I'm thinking I might start making much shorter videos. And Anthony does have, if you type in Allah the Man God, Anthony has done a series on some of these passages in the past. I'm thinking just because Muslims seem to have no clue what we're talking about. I mean, Muhammad Hijab had no idea what we were talking about when we started talking about in the debate where I mentioned that it's Muslim scholars themselves acknowledge that some of these passages about Allah's parts have to be taken literally rather than figuratively. He didn't know what I was talking about. And so if even Muslim debaters don't know this, then it seems like an important issue. And so I'm thinking I might just start making a series of videos where I just go through kind of one passage at a time on something about one of Allah's body parts, whether it's his hand or shin or something like that. Maybe even start doing it weekly, because it's really easy to do, right? You just read a passage and then draw out the implications of the passage. But what could I call this? Oh, Man God Monday, right?
Oh gosh.
Want to do?
Oh gosh.
Want to do Man God Monday?
Man God Monday.
Let us know if you want us to do Man God Monday, where maybe every Monday for like the next 6 months, I'll read a passage about one of Allah's body parts might come in handy.
And then you could do Word of Allah Wednesday.
Yeah, because this is a problem, and Anthony and I just talked about it in the live stream we did. That you can, if you read the Muslim sources and you start telling Muslims what's in the Muslim sources, they think you're lying, right? And if they go to their leaders will say, no, they're lying. They're making this stuff up. And so the only way to really get that across to them, the only way for them to really understand it is if you just keep hitting it over and over and over again, right? You just keep showing them over and over and over again. So you it's almost like you have to, if you're dealing with a new topic, it's almost like you have to just keep bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up until it gets through to them. Because keep in mind, I mean, they've never heard this before. They've never heard a lot of this before. Oh, hey, since we're on that topic, somewhat related topic is in the description box. I think I put a link. I think I put a link to a track. Actually,
yes, you did.
Yeah, I've made multiple tracks in the past. This one's a brand new one. This one's on Muhammad and Aisha, and that's the video I was actually working on earlier today. But I was having a game night with Luke and Blaze. We're playing the European version of Risk, and then I realized that the fight was going to be on right after that. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to finish this video. But the video is on how to stop prison radicalization, and I argue in the video, dead serious, by the way. The way to end prison radicalization is to show inmates that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. And the reason this would work is, for any of you who've been to prison, I've spent many years in prison back in the day. But there are basically two rules that are the most foundational. One, don't snitch, and two, don't molest kids, right? That's it. Those are the two foundational rules. In other words, the people in prison who are considered the bottom of the barrel, the absolute scum of the prison system, are snitches and child molesters. And so if you understand that the very heart of the convict code is don't mess with kids, if you then go and show inmates that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, you're going to stop prison radicalization, right? Because they don't know that. I heard that once, all the years I was locked up, even though I was studying Islam and interacting with Muslims. I heard that once the entire time I was locked up, and I assumed the guy was making it up. I was like, there's no way this is true. People would not be converting to Islam in here if Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. They would never accept that, right? So I assumed that it was false. Anyway, the point is, they just don't know, right? They just don't know this. If you got that information across to inmates, you'll stop prison radicalization. By prison radicalization, I mean this ongoing problem of people converting to Islam in prison and then actually coming out of prison as jihadis ready to fight. So there are people who are building an army of jihadis within prison walls to be used in the future when necessary. And so what are you going to do about that, right? Well, there's actually a pretty easy solution. I put a track down there, and again, I'll have a video on this. But if people in whatever areas they're in, especially people who actually know inmates, in other words, if you've got, like I have, both my brothers are locked up right now, right? Which people don't know. My very, very dysfunctional family. Guys will pull out a gun in a heartbeat. Yeah. So anyway, so if you're like me, you always kind of know people in prison. So maybe you have a friend in prison or a relative in prison. You don't have to. You can always. There are websites now that are inmate locators. You can actually look up inmates in various prisons. You also have people who are involved in prison ministry, so people who actually go into prisons, lead Bible studies and things like that. But the bottom line is, if you get some contact info for some inmates and you print out some information about Muhammad and Aisha, and you actually get that into the hands of inmates in the prison system, if inmates find this stuff out, they will not hesitate to share that, right? People on the outside, people out here are very often politically correct. Inmates aren't like that, right? If you're a Muslim and you walk up to an inmate and say, hey, you need to convert to Islam, if he knows that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, he is going to bring that up. I guarantee you he is going to bring that up very, very quick-like. And by the way, I mean, people think I'm like that, right? People think, hey, David, he just blurts out all these things. He doesn't hesitate. Right. That's my background, right? And that's how lots of other guys are. So if you actually equip these guys to start undermining Islam, you've just solved one of the biggest problems that's confronting our children in the future, namely what's going to happen when all these jihadis do their work. Because I don't know if people know the statistics, but so far 1,500 people who went to the Middle East to join ISIS are now in the prison system in Europe, but they're not going to stay there, right? These are people, they know they left. They know that they went and went to the lands of ISIS, but they don't know any specific crime that they committed. So they're able to put them in prison for some sort of aiding or abetting a foreign terrorist organization or something like that, traveling to a foreign land, doing something like that. But they're, on average, the prison sentence is 3 to 5 years. So you're talking about people who went and joined ISIS, but the governments don't have any specific information beyond that. And so they're only able to put them in, to lock them up for a couple years. So you got 1,500 of these people doing prison dawah, right? They're recruiting the next generation of jihadis. And the governments have no idea what to do about that, right? Because in theory, you could keep them isolated, right? You just keep them separate from everyone else. You still have to let them out eventually. But there's so many of them because it's not just them. It's Muslims who are locked up for other reasons. You can't keep all these guys isolated. You'd bankrupt your government trying to keep everyone separate and stuff like that. And so what do you do with these guys? Well, got a simple solution. Get some information in the hands of inmates and let inmates do the work. They will, I'm telling you, these guys aren't scared. These guys have grown up in gangs and gunslinging and all kinds of stuff. They're not scared about telling someone what they think about their prophet. So anyway, offered one solution. But in the meantime, I'll have that video up sometime tomorrow. But in the meantime, I've got the tract, so you don't need to send that to an inmate in order to use the tract. It's basically got all the basic information about Muhammad and Aisha in tract form. So anyone can print those up and give those out anytime you want.
I remember you made a track about who started. Was it Who Started Christianity? It was the one about essentially showing how Allah would be responsible for Christianity. It was in the same format of the track you just made.
Yeah, that one was called Who Corrupted the Gospel.
Yeah, that's what you called it. We actually used that at the mosque.
Oh yeah?
George had a ton of those printed out. And we had a couple we had some less polemical tracks as well.
I need to see I made a lot of tracks that because we used to go and do outreaches into Muslim areas, and I would come up with some point I wanted to make, and I would make a tract out of it. But I wasn't thinking of putting those online back in the day.
Right.
So yeah, I need to find all those files and make them available. But yeah, so the point of that was, Muslims say, the gospel's been corrupted. And so the point of that track was, who corrupted, so Muslims are claiming that the gospel's been corrupted. Who corrupted it? Well, you open your gospel up, it says that Jesus died on the cross. Who corrupted that? If Jesus didn't die on the cross, and the original gospel says he didn't die on the cross, but now the gospel says he did die on the cross, who corrupted that? And the answer, according to Islam, if Islam is true, is that Allah corrupted that, right? So stop blaming the Apostle Paul. Stop blaming the Council of Nicaea or something like that. Allah was the first one to corrupt the gospel, right? He did that right back at the beginning. And Christianity could not have gotten off the ground if it weren't for Allah tricking and deceiving people into believing that Jesus died by crucifixion. And so Allah is responsible for corrupting the gospel if the gospel has been corrupted. So I've got that one. I've got one on the preservation of the Quran. I've got one on jihad.
The first two I know we've passed out at the mosque, especially the corrupted the gospel one. And one time I was at the Phoenix Mosque, who not only Elton Simpson came out, but we should talk about this sometime. 3 other jihadis came out of that mosque at different times. But when we were there,
we should do a live discussion of that sometime, because that's actually important. That especially that you know all these jihadis.
Well, I knew two of the four. I knew 2 of the 4. But so I know half the jihadis who came out of the Phoenix Orangewood Mosque, although they don't call it Orangewood on the website. That's just what we call it because it's off Orangewood Street. Anyways, I had that one, Who Corrupted the Gospel. And a man whose first name is Usama, he's the president of the mosque there, he was the main one the media interviewed after Elton did what he did and got killed. And, Usama's all like, I haven't seen him around in a while and all this stuff. But he came out when I was trying to pass out was more accurate, the Who Corrupted the Gospel track. And he took one from me, and then he went like that. And I was like, hey, you can't rip that. That has the Quran in Arabic on it. And he was like, oh, really?
Whoa.
and he threw it down. I was like, I don't have to do what you say. I was like, but don't you have to do what Allah says? He says, you're not Allah.
No,
he was pretty gangster. He didn't care. He was pretty vicious that day.
Yeah, that's actually strange, because anyone who goes and clicks on the track and takes a look at it, it's we're kind of funny, right? Because I put a verse of the Quran on the front of the track in English and in Arabic, right?
Right.
And the reason and then there's a warning. It says this pamphlet contains a verse of the Quran in English and Arabic. Please do not dispose of it improperly. I've actually had Christians saying, well, why are you showing respect for the Quran here? Well, there's a reason. And by the way, this goes back to like the Dearborn Arab festivals, because back in the day, we'd go there and we'd hand out tracts, just gospel tracts and stuff like that. The end of the festival, they'd cover the ground, right? They're all over the ground. You hand them to someone and they just go and they throw it on the ground. So we started putting Quran verses on the front with that warning, hey, you can't throw this away, right? You can't throw this away if it's got the Quran on it. You can't treat this like garbage. And then you wouldn't see any. You wouldn't see any on the ground at the end of the festival. And it's cool because now they have to take them home, right? They don't know what to do with it. So some people would actually come and try to give it back, and they're like, no, I gave that to you. I'm not taking it back. And they realize they have to take it home now, or they would have to go to their imam. What do I do with this? I don't want it, but it's got a Quran verse on it, so I can't throw it away. So anyway, you got a tract on Muhammad and Aisha, and if you get it into the hands of a Muslim, the Muslim's not allowed to throw it away. You can't throw it in the garbage. It's got the Quran on it. So anyway, we do cool stuff like that.
Piv Viddle commented again in the super chat, and he said he was referring to the place where it says 4-leg of a beast. So I think what he's asking, he's saying, could that be referring to Allah Shin, the 4-leg of a beast? I guess that's what he's asking.
Yeah, I don't think so, unless he's joking here. Let me go ahead and take a look at it at the end. By the one in whose hand is the soul of Muhammad, among mankind, you are but like the mole on the flank of a camel, or a mark on the foreleg of a beast. So there it seems to be talking about us being insignificant, or the mole on the flank of a camel, or the mark on the foreleg of a beast. So yeah, I don't think that's talking about Allah's shin there, unless you're being playful. But maybe if you're seeing something that I don't see, then again, feel free to toss that in the comments section on one of the videos that Anthony and I are doing. But speaking of that series, this is a perfect example of people not knowing what we're talking about, Muslims not knowing what we're talking about, not knowing what their sources say, and then responding out of ignorance here. So this is Muhammad from Calling Christians here. He says, the Old Testament God has hands too, you hypocrite. Now, Muhammad, just go through do yourself a favor and go through, because this is actually an important point, right? Don't think that you automatically have to jump in and respond and lash back with an answer. Do yourself a favor once and actually sit down and try to understand the point. And we've already made 2 parts on this series, and you clearly have no idea what we're talking about, right? Because we go through it. The first thing we discuss is that in the Bible, it's clear that we have what's called anthropomorphic language, that we have figurative descriptions of God. And I said this in the debate with Muhammad Hijab, that if we're talking about, if we say, God's eyes see everything, that whether we're dealing with Islam or we're dealing with Christianity, we wouldn't interpret that literally unless we had a good reason to interpret it literally, right? So there are passages in the Bible where, so for instance, Yahweh actually comes down and appears before Abraham. And he appears in the form of a man. And so there's a situation where God does take on a form where he would have hands, right? He would have hands. He would have a face. But that's not how God is eternally. That's a form God took on to appear to Abraham. Then later, of course, you have the incarnation where the divine Son actually enters into creation. The Word becomes flesh, and he actually has a human nature. So he is actually walking around. So there you could say that Jesus has hands, and Jesus is God. So he has this dual nature. But if we're talking about what God is like from all eternity, his eternal nature, no, God doesn't have hands. He doesn't have physical eyes. He doesn't have a physical body. God is spirit. So we understand that when we read that God's hands created the world, this isn't talking about physical hands. That's true. That would be true of both Christianity and of Islam when we're reading the sources. There are passages we would look at and we would say, this is figurative, whether we're looking at the Bible or whether we're looking at the Quran. But when we get to passages which can't be interpreted figuratively, right? We can't say, hey, this is just using anthropomorphic language. This is just figurative. There are times, and this is true. This is not true according to us. This is true even according to your Muslim scholars. There are Muslim scholars who will point out that there are teachings about Allah and Allah's body parts which you don't interpret figuratively. You interpret literally, and there are reasons for interpreting them literally. So let me just respond to you, because you brought up the hands. In the Quran, Allah creates man, human beings, with his hands, right? Now, you also have, in the Muslim sources, you have a bunch of hadiths on this, but Allah only creates 3 or 4 things directly with his hands, right? And Allah creates Adam with his hands specifically so that Satan would understand that Adam is set apart. He's different from the rest of creation. Now think about this, right? Because normally, again, whether we're talking about Christian sources or Muslim sources, if we read God created everything with his hands, we would assume that this is figurative language, meaning that God created everything with his power or something like that. And he's just telling us this information in language that we can understand. But there's a problem here, right? What would hands mean here in the Muslim sources? That Allah is creating Adam and only a couple other things directly with his hands. And this is to set these things apart from the rest of creation, to show that Allah is creating them differently. Well, here hands can't just be figurative language for God's power or something like that. Because God creates everything like that, right? So how would Adam be different if God is creating him with his hands? So here you can't say that it's figurative for something else, because whatever else you mean by that, that's how God creates other things. God is doing something different with Adam, and he's setting him apart by specifically creating him with his hands. And so here, even you go to your Muslim scholars, right? If they're taking these passages seriously, that they're creating, they're acknowledging that Allah must have hands. Now they'll say his hands are different from our hands because Allah is different. But they're saying, no, we have to interpret hands here literally. We have to say that Allah has literal hands. So if you're saying that we're in the same ballpark on that one, we're just not, because we don't say that. So
I heard, according to some translations, even that Allah has jazz hands. I'm sorry, man. I think I read that in sorry, I read that in the top steer literature somewhere.
Yeah, you get an awesome sense of humor. What is it for you? Is it midnight? Is it 1 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m. But it's whatever. It's just normal, man. I'm just keeping it real, homie. Nah, but also Sam has a great not Sam. I'm sorry. Anthony has a great article on Answering Islam called "Allah's Hands More Than a Handful."
Hey,
of
look
evidence.
at this! Look at this!
What?
Just wanted to go through and read this comment, right? Oh, so because this is a problem I find over and over again. Namely, no matter how clearly you say something, there are Muslims who just won't get it, won't understand it. So let's read the response here, right? I just gave my response. And what did I say? Right? What did I say? Whether we're reading the Bible or whether we're reading the Quran, there are descriptions of God that we would interpret anthropomorphically or figuratively, right? And we would normally do this with something like God's hands creating or something, right? So notice that's consistent, right? The point is, we get to certain things in the Muslim sources where, even according to Muslim scholars, a literal interpretation is necessary. And this is why Muslims say that Allah has hands and a shin and so on. What's Muhammad's response here? Oh, so it is anthropomorphic for Bible, cannot be for Quran? Great logic, kafir. It's anthropomorphic in Quran too, whether you like it or not. Now,
you just did judge hands, by the way.
It's really a sad state of affairs because you can be, and I don't know whether this is an intelligence problem or just a kind of spiritual blindness, but when you're dealing with someone like Muhammad here, how do you even continue the conversation, right? Because no matter, you guys go ahead and tell me here in the chat, was I clear on that? Well, I mean, I felt like I was clear, right? I felt like I was clear that we use language in a certain way, and it seemed like I was applying it consistently, and then I showed why certain Muslim descriptions are actually different in the Muslim sources, and according to Muslim scholars, they have to be interpreted literally. And what's the response? Oh, so you're saying, you apply this just to the Bible, not to the Quran. And how do you even continue the conversation at that point, right? You're dealing with someone who's either not listening or doesn't have the intellectual capacity to understand very, very simple points. And this has always been a problem because if you look at someone like Muhammad Hijab, you look at his fans, they're all like that, right? They all seem to be like that, right? Where you can explain something to them and they just don't get it. Like on the issue of prayer, right? On Allah praying. So if you recall, if you've seen the video, I said that according to the Quran, Allah prays for Muhammad. Muhammad Hijab got up and said, "Aha, you don't understand Arabic. You're embarrassing yourself. It's not 2, it's 4.
Don't embarrass yourself in front of me."
Yeah. It's not 2, it's 4, which is exactly what I said, right? It's exactly what I said. We translated it in the exact same way. He says I said something I didn't say, and it's being recorded. And then attacks me. Once again, notice it's a straw man, right? He's attacking me for something I didn't actually say. And he agrees with what I did actually say. So this is a straw man, but the Muslim audience would cheer for what he's saying. Now that's one thing. But what you find out later, after I make a video on this, right? After I put out a video saying, look, here's exactly what I said. What's going on here? Why are Muslims taking this as him refuting me on Arabic when he said exactly what I said? And when I would bring this up with Muslims, they would say, "Ha, he schooled you on the Arabic." And I would say, "How so? You said 2, not 4. And I would go, "No, I didn't. I said 4. And then they would say, "Aha, but later you said, who does Allah pray to? So you did say 2. Now think about this. They would say, "You did say that Allah prays. You said, who does Allah pray to?" And I go, "Yeah, but we're talking about a Quran verse, and we both translated that in the exact same way. We said, Allah prays for Muhammad. And then he attacked me based on that. And they said, yes, because you said two. And I go, it's right there. I said for. And they go, no, you said two. Over here, when you said, who does Allah pray to? And I just found they can't even grasp the point. They can't even grasp what's being said. And this seems to be standard, and disturbingly standard. And this is one thing that I've never been able to figure out, right? Most problems, you give me some huge problem, I think, I can deal with that, right? Meteors heading towards Earth, no problem. We can deal with that, right? But when you're dealing with a massive crowd of followers, doesn't have to be Muslims, can be other things, could be people who are surrounding a certain political position or something like that, and they are either so incredibly stupid or they have some sort of psychological block that they can't even understand anything you're saying. They can't understand the simplest of points. We're not talking about, hey, I'm going to break down calculus for you or something like that. It's let me give you the simplest point in the simplest terms, and they just can't get it. I have not figured out what to do about that situation, because if you can't even communicate a point to someone, what do you do? I don't know.
Did you say that if a meteor was heading towards Earth, you would say no problem?
Yeah.
Okay,
dude,
I gotta figure it out, guys. Is a meteor gonna head to Earth? Don't worry.
You want me to break it down? You want me to break it down? You go get an oil drilling team. You train them very quickly on how to be astronauts. You put them in a shuttle, fly them up there. They circle around the moon, come up from behind that asteroid, put a nuclear bomb in that thing, blow it up. It splits in two pieces, goes right around the world. Come on. Look, no, notice, there's a problem, and I can solve it instantly. Me and Bruce Willis instantly solve that problem. What do you do about people? What do you do about people who can't understand basic points? I don't know.
Check out The Hook while DJ revolves it. He's a problem solver. David Wood and Vanilla Ice. Well, I'm glad we solved that problem. I mean, yeah, I had the same problem with the Hebrew Israelites, just so you know.
Do you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's real.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, doesn't seem like he's necessarily getting. But I mean, you know, there's clip after clip. I'm sure you guys have seen them of these imams and sheikhs agreeing to this.
Yeah.
Saying
that's what's funny.
The case.
And that's what's funny, and that's why I brought it up with Muhammad. You don't need to just lash out. I mean, look at his comments. You kafir this, you kafir that. You don't need to lash out and just to say something in response. There are some people who they feel that need, right? Oh, anything the Christian says, I have to attack it. Well, what if I'm saying exactly what your own scholars are saying? Well, I still have to attack it because this kafir is saying it. And they don't realize that when they do that, they're attacking their own prophet, their own God, right? When the Muslim sources are clear that Allah actually has literal hands, different from ours, but still literal hands, a literal shin, and they attack that, and, oh, you're just stupid for saying that. Your prophet's the one who said it, right? So you're calling your prophet stupid. If you're doing that, now what's amazing is I'm trying to be more careful with Islam than they are, right? I'm trying to be more careful and more accurate in a discussion of what Islam teaches than Muslims are. They'll just, hey, if a Christian is saying it, just start attacking it no matter what it is. And it's, anyway, just a sad situation.
Well, so we have Muhammad praying for Allah, so we don't know who he prays to. But, you know, at least with Muhammad, we knew who he prayed on. He prayed on 6-year-old girls, so at least that's clear.
I'm glad I have you here for comic relief with your awesome 1 o'clock in the morning sense of humor.
I don't know why else, but you know what? There, just so folks know, there are folks that would call themselves Christian that try to do these passages that believers, from Jews to Christians, have always understood in a poetical type of way when God is described these ways. Because God is also described in other ways. Like there's places where Yahweh says in the Old Testament, about suckling Israel, and clearly God doesn't have breasts, or drawing them under his wings like a mother hen. He doesn't have those. So it's not just with, God's nostrils flare up, which is, scholars have known this for a long time. That's a Semitic way you can see from other literature to describe being angry. The nostrils flaring or the red nostrils. That language just means to be really upset or angry. And so it's describing that poetically. And so anyone within the Christian community who has ever said that it means God has body parts have been deemed heretics. There's very rare examples, but there's a few within the prosperity gospel movement. So Copeland and Hagen, because they take God down to our level. It's a long story to get into the prosperity gospel. Hank Hanegraaff has 2 great books on it, though, Christianity in Crisis and Christianity in Crisis in the 21st Century, where he breaks this down, how they do that. But those folks have always been considered heretics for that, and they have to use really bad hermeneutics to do so. So, you can hear Kenneth Copeland, because Hagen's dead, still talk about it while he's on his, $35 million jet or whatever. But that's not everyone is saying, this guy's a heretic, this is incorrect, this is wrong. But it seems like within Islam, you got a lot of Muslim scholars who say, yeah, we've got to deal with these texts. That's what it says. But the average Muslim, like you said, lashes out. I mean, the videos are online. These things are there. So don't blame David Wood.
Yeah, for real. Oh, by the way, how long should we go here?
Well, the weird thing is, the longer we go, the more people watch. So we were at like 300. Now we're at 430 some. It just
really? In the middle of the night here?
Yeah, and we've gone over.
Hey, I know everyone. A lot of people mentioned earlier where you're from, but tell us where you're from, because I basically want to know: are you up at 2 or 3 in the morning in the United States, or are you actually guys in other places? Now I know it's going to be a mixture. I know there are people from other parts of the world who are watching. I'm just trying to get the proportions here. Are there a bunch of people who just aren't sleeping in the middle of the night, and so you're staying up here and going, coming on this channel? Or is it the middle of the day or the evening for you because you're some other part of the world?
Janny is from Finland. Automotive says they just stay up all night long. GP's from India. First and Last is from Toronto. Walking Around and Viorp and Slada all say it's morning in Europe. We're just now waking up. Slada's from India. Karam's from India. Abu Bakr Ghazali says California. Noor's from Canada. So, yeah, it looks like the Europeans are waking up anyway, so they don't mind.
Europe, Asia, Pennsylvania, Hong Kong, Indiana. Man, the internet is cool. Seattle,
Philippines,
Australia.
Wow. UK, Kentucky,
England,
Germany,
Colorado,
Vegas. Wow. Bakersfield, Australia, Florida, Toronto. Asian, that's not a place. Someone put Asian. Sorry, I'm not trying to. Asian. Sorry, I know what you're saying. Boston, Malaysia. Man, wow, this just keeps on going. This is amazing.
Finland.
People are talking about, they love Islamicize me. Kenya, Sydney. Wow, Wales from Flat Earth. Oh, goodness, Dennis.
Hey, is that Dennis?
Yeah, but I don't think it's that Dennis.
It's not Dennis from Islamicize Me?
Oh, that Dennis? Yeah, you're online as your other self. Iceland.
I saw someone ask when Christianize Me is coming.
Quran says Earth is Pakistan. I think before that happens, we've got to do Nepal, Denmark. Jeez, we've got to do the Muhammad versus Jesus rap battle.
Oh yeah, so yeah, here's a timeline. This is basically going to come down to funding. So I'll have to do a fundraiser at some point for the next project. But yeah, the next big project we want to work on is the Jesus versus Muhammad epic rap battle. We've got the awesomest Christian diss rapper on the planet who's going to be Jesus. He had a request that his face not be shown, so we're going to have that glowing. That's how they used to do movies back in the day. And then Vocab will be Muhammad. I'm actually concerned that you're not white enough, Vocab, because you're Italian. We wanted someone extremely, extremely white play Muhammad. And so in the video, Jesus will be rapping about creating the universe and saving humanity and so on, and Muhammad will be rapping about all the people he killed and all the ladies he banged. So that would be the basic idea. But that's the next sort of big thing that we have to work on. As far as Christianize Me, before that, we'll probably do the atheist prequel. If you remember, in Islamicize Me, we start at the beginning. We're atheists. So we want to do a prequel on how we became atheists, and then have some fun stuff on that. And then afterwards we do the sequel, which is once we become Christians, because in the video, at the end of the video, we just, we hear a simple gospel message, and we're so worn out. We're like, we'll try anything. And so we become Christians, and then it sort of fast forwards to, what we eventually become. But we want to do more. We want to do more than that. We want to do, us actually encountering some struggles as Christians, or wrestling with some important apologetics issues. The question is how we're going to make that funny. But so we're going to do all those if we get to them.
But I mean, I don't know if this is ever going to happen or if we're just talking nonsense. But I still like, out of a lot of the ideas we discussed.
What?
I don't know. It probably things have to change, but I love the idea of a wrestling federation where each of the characters represents a different religious worldview. Remember, like, we would have the ultimate social justice warrior.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. The ultimate social justice warrior. Yeah, that would be cool.
And just all these different, oh man. And you'd have them wrestle using their, like, religious worldview as their abilities and stuff. Oh man, that'd be so epic, man.
Oh, hey, some people are saying we should use makeup for you. Shlada said put baby powder on so to make you whiter.
No, I don't want to use makeup because then I'll end up looking like you did in those videos you did for those one guys where like your whole bottom of your face disappeared.
No. To play Muhammad, we got to make you extremely white, man.
I know. We
got to make you super pale, and then you can be rapping about how white you are.
I'm white. Yeah, just keep on reading. Oh man, dude, the Hebrew Israelites are going to use that too. Look, Vocab Malone's on here bragging about how white he is. That's what's going to happen. People are still talking about the different places they're from. It's pretty. Well, they just stopped now, but it's pretty amazing. So,
by the way, everyone, how long should we go here? Because I'm basically up till 9 a.m.
Let's just go till 9 a.m.
It's 3:17. I should do that one night. I should just stay on for like 8 hours straight. No, I will eventually have things to do here, taking care of the kids. I'm actually surprised the alarms haven't gone off, because they usually go off pretty much every 30 or 40 minutes for something. But been clear so far.
Now is is that how long you can go on YouTube? Is it 8 hours max?
Is it? I don't know.
There's some kind of limit. I forget what it is. I think it might be 8 hours, but I'm not sure what it is. There is some kind of, there actually will stop, because one time I had some friends and they forgot to turn off their software and the video was like 8 hours long, even though they didn't go 8 hours. So I'm pretty sure it is 8 hours.
No. I mean, what do you mean, for a live stream or just for a video on YouTube?
For a live stream.
Because I know people post like 10 hours of, I would walk 500 miles or something like that, and then they'll just play it over and over again for 10 hours. You never saw those?
No, that sounds dumb. YouTube's dumb sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, people do that. They'll post 10 hours of something.
No.
Watch. Like 80% of the people in the comment section will know what I'm talking about when people post these 10 hours videos.
What about those insane videos that are like 10 hours of like, have you ever seen where they take Prince Adam from He-Man, but they make it to that weird techno dance song, What's Going On?
Wait, where?
What's going on? Someone knows what I'm talking about. He's on, Prince Adam, before he turns into He-Man, he's Prince Adam.
Yeah.
They'll put like 24 hours of that song looping. And it's just like, it's like the dance video, and then it's Prince Adam, and he does the laughing thing again and again. Have you never seen the video? It's like super flamboyant. Mm-hmm. Someone has seen the video, guys. The Derp song, Anyways, never mind. It was super long. So apparently people know what you're talking about because they're all saying yes.
All right, here's a question. Hello, David. I am ex-Muslim. Can you please give me some good Christian site or some website so I can download some Christian books? That's going to depend on what you're looking for, what kind of books you're looking for. So yeah, what kind of books do you mean? Are you talking like apologetics? Are you talking about apologetics with reference to Islam, like defending Christianity against Islam? Are you talking about general Christian books? Just Christian living or Christian doctrine or something like that? Yeah, tell us a little bit more about what you're looking for. And matter of fact, there are so many of you over in the chat there that I'm sure people who download books would be able to give some good responses. Just don't send this person to anything heretical, in case there are any weirdos over there.
One place, it depends where you are in your journey, but one place I recommend for discipleship type resources, not everything is directly related to it, but I like the website I'llBeHonest.com. I'llBeHonest.com.
I thought you were about to name some weird website, and you're like, I'll be honest.
No,
the website I really like is Mormonism.org. It's got this awesome stuff on there.
No, it's I'llBeHonest.com, and they have these hard hitting messages that it's just like one of the most. Sometimes I don't want to go on the website because they have some of the most convicting stuff that you can have. And so if you're a Christian, you've newly become a Christian, and you want to go like you should want to. You want to go all the way. You want to take it serious. You want to make your life count for Jesus. The resources on I'll Be Honest. Now, all of them aren't going to apply to you. Like they have some stuff on church planning, but they have a list of topics, especially under the Christian living section. Just go through and look, and they have a lot of free resources to download, and they have a ton of great messages, audio and video, and you watch those, they will really, really challenge you in your faith, and I think it will give you a good picture of what it means to have a radical, sold-out identity in Jesus. I wonder if anyone in the live chat uses that site, but the I'll Be Honest stuff is great. And one other site I'm looking to see if anyone recommends, what else to recommend, is Desiring God. Desiring God. Just because they have so many free resources. They just have so many free resources. And Desiring God is another one I'd recommend. I don't know if there's others people recommend off the top of my head, but did he give some specifics? I'm trying to see if he gave some specifics about kind of what exactly he was looking for. Let's see.
Anyone see?
People seem to be agreeing with I'll Be Honest, so that's good. There is. I remember there's a website. I want to try to find it again that I thought was designed for Muslims coming out of Islam, basic starting discipleship steps for them. But I do not remember what it was. But I feel like there's a few of those out there.
Hexitas pointed out that lots of times on Amazon there'll be deals, especially on like classic Christian books. There'll be download for Kindle or something like that, which you can get a Kindle program for your computer and just download them on your computer. But lots of times they'll have free downloads of various books and so on. Here we have a question. Why don't you make videos about pro-life? Now, that's something we would be interested in, right?
Yeah, that is. John has a couple good ones.
Yeah. So John's one of the three amigos here. I've made, I think, one or two at some point. One was it was a response to the Daily Show. I believe it was the Daily Show a couple of years, maybe 2 years ago. They actually sent out a tweet. It was one of the most repulsive things ever. it told people to celebrate some ruling by going and having an abortion or something like that, which was just revolting, right? It's telling you to celebrate something by having an abortion. So I did make a video about that, but
I just put the link in the live chat, by the way, for that video.
What video?
The one you just mentioned, the Daily Show, where Trevor Noah encourages abortion on Twitter.
Dude, you are fast.
Just trying to be a service, bro. Just trying to be Christ-like servant, man.
Yeah. But basically, as far as making videos, because I get this all the time. Hey, David, why don't you talk about this? Why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about this? I view Christians as a body, right? And so it's always been my view that, well, there are certain people who can deal with 12 different topics, you know what I mean? Like 12 completely different topics, and still do them all pretty well. I'm not like that. I can only deal with a couple of topics and think that I'm still doing, a decent job addressing them. So I deal with Islam. Sometimes I deal with atheism because I do study. In fact, I want to make more videos dealing with atheism, just because I study that stuff a lot. So it's material that I have fresh in my mind. Would also at some point like to start making philosophy videos, because I've spent a massive amount of my time over the past 20 years studying philosophy, ancient philosophy, medieval philosophy, modern philosophy. And so it's something I'd be, especially mainly some of the highlights, some of the stuff that's actually relevant to everyone, because you have philosophical issues that are of no interest to anyone in the world apart from half a dozen philosophers, right, who specialize in that. That's how precise things can actually get. But there are other issues where, basics of moral reasoning or logic or something like that, which are relevant to everyone. And so wouldn't mind getting into some basics of philosophy. But once you start getting outside of those areas, in other words, areas that I've spent a lot of time studying, I usually don't feel like I do a good job. But we could do something on something like abortion with the knowledge that we have, because you can always make important points without mastering a field of knowledge or something like that. So we would be open to some videos on some practical moral issues, especially since these are kind of relevant to us, right? I mean, Vocab has 3 adopted sons. I have 2 of my 5 sons are physically disabled. And I don't know if you know what happens when you have a child, a baby who is physically disabled, but the hospital lets you know they're happy to take care of this. And I don't mean aborting the baby. They come up to you and they say, so would you like to just provide comfort care for the child? Would you like, which comfort care means they shoot your baby up with morphine and then wait for something to go wrong. So they offer you the opportunity to just provide, and think about what they call that, right? Comfort care. It sounds good, doesn't it? They're shooting your baby up with morphine and letting him die, right? So anyway, but there are plenty of people. There are plenty of people who would say, hey, if you've got a disabled child, why would you let that child be a drain on your resources? Or it depends on how it depends on sort of the level of what kind of selfishness they're appealing to, right? Because they could say, hey, you're going to have a really hard life taking care of your kid. You don't want to have a really hard life. Don't you want to go out and be having fun and, not staying up in the middle of the night taking care of your kids? That would be completely irrelevant to me and my wife. We are going to love our kids no matter what, and take care of them no matter what. But you could put it and say, why would you have kids who are going to be a drain on society, taking up the resources of society, when they're not physically capable of, contributing in a way that a normal, healthy child is going to contribute? So there are people who would believe that you should let these kids die, right?
Yep.
So anyway, the only point there is these are not totally foreign issues to me in vocab here. They're relevant to us because we deal with we have some association with this issue. So
the Third Reich. The Third Reich called those types of people useless eaters, of course in German, but that's what Third Reich called them. And even more and more in Europe, what you just said, they're doing. It's kind of starting, especially on the older end of the spectrum. So, where once euthanasia becomes legalized, it's interesting. It doesn't stay a passive option, especially in a socialized medicine type of environment because of the cost issue. And so older people are actually being not just, would you like to, have assisted suicide and die when you would like to so you can die in peace, but actually being more and more encouraged, like this option, and getting even pushed into it. Just what you said, use the word should, as if it's a moral obligation for you to do this sooner rather than later as an older person who's draining at society. This is real stuff that's happening. It's not like some hypothetical simply syrup argument, because I keep on some of these stories. I listen to an awesome podcast daily. It's only 20 minutes long. Albert Mohler does a show called The Briefing, and he covers major worldview issue related in the news and just goes through them, but gives the sources and stuff and then a brief analysis. And he talks about these stories frequently, and it's pretty shocking, but it's crazy. You see Orwellian world. You see the Orwellian world coming to fruition more and more every day with some of this stuff. But it would be good to do some of those videos. By the way, I put the 2 links for John McRae's on What Do You Mean, his 2 abortion videos. He has one where he deals with 30 different abortion arguments and deals with them all. So he has a couple good resources as well.
By the way, on the Third Reich and how they dealt with disabilities. You can actually read it, and I read it in a book called The White Rose, one of the best books of all time. But The White Rose was about a group of young Christian students who started a writing campaign against Hitler. Right? They were writing a leaflet called The White Rose, where they were encouraging resistance against Hitler, and they talk about some of the things that they saw along the way. There were several of them were eventually caught and executed, but the story by their younger sister talks about some of the things they saw along the way. And one of the things that they talk about that you don't hear a lot about was once Hitler rose to power, places like orphanages for disabled children and stuff, they had a portable gas chamber, right? It was in the back of it. It was in kind of like a van, and they would bring this portable gas chamber to one of these places, one of these orphanages, a place where they had disabled kids or people with disabilities and so on, and they would have them get in the van, and then they're gassed along the way. And so one of the things that happened was the nuns or whoever it was who were in charge of the orphanages, they would know where these kids are being taken, but there's nothing they could do about it. So they would tell the kids that they're being taken to heaven. So they would tell these kids, as the kids say, "Hey, where are we going?" Nuns say, "Oh, you're going for a ride." "Oh, where are we going?" "You're going to heaven." And the kids would actually go out singing hymns and so on, happy that they're being taken to heaven. They'd be put on this bus and gassed there. And notice there's the impact that your worldview has. This has a lot to do with what kind of conclusion you're going to draw on issues like this, because if atheism is true, if atheism is true, why wouldn't you think something like that, right? It's why wouldn't you get rid of things that are going to be a drain on civilization? If human beings are created in the image of God, they have a different kind of dignity. And so that's why you can come to completely different conclusions about this and be able to make a case, right? You could make a case as someone who doesn't believe that humans have any special intrinsic worth or dignity beyond what they might contribute to society or something like that. And you can make a case. Hey, no, if you are prone to disease or you have a genetic abnormality or something like this, you need to be weeded out, because in an ordinary state of nature, you would have been weeded out by nature, right? In other words, if you were just living off on, in a tribe, in a jungle or something like this, you're born with a horrible disability, you're going to die. We live in a civilization where you don't have that same selection pressure to weed people out. And so the claim would be that you're actually increasing problems for the future, right? In other words, if you take some population of animals or something like that, if a member of that population gets some disease, it's not going to survive as well. It's going to be weeded out. So its genetic information will not be passed on in the same way as the genetic information of the healthier animals. Well, in society, because we take care of, and we have hospitals, and we take care of people who have disabilities, they're not weeded out in the same way. And so if you have no other reason, beyond your basic worldview to think of humans as intrinsically important or worthy of some special kind of dignity, then why would you say that you should take care of disabled people or autistic kids? Could be anything. So anyway, the point was these are kind of foundational issues, because for many centuries it would be taken for granted in the West that human beings are created in the image of God and are important, so important that God entered creation as Jesus of Nazareth, laid down his life for them. But it's in our time, so it's very recently. It's over the past century where you start getting a major alternative to that. And now, with the spread of Islam and stuff like that, you have a couple major alternatives to Christianity. But these are the kinds of issues that would be worth discussing, these kinds of moral, philosophical issues. So, yeah, maybe we will get into some of these kinds of topics here in the future.
Yeah, one time I mentioned some of those issues briefly to a pretty well-informed, intelligent atheist, along the lines of like, why not take out those kids, post birth, and he had this strange explanation about potential negative psychological effects on the parents. That was his reason why you shouldn't do it, is because it can be potentially psychologically harmful to do that type of thing. Nothing about the dignity or worth or value intrinsically or inherently in any way. But he said we still shouldn't do it because of potential negative psychological effects. Basically saying like, oh, if you murder somebody and you're like more aware of it, meaning they're out of the womb instead of inside, that basically it might impact you negatively. So that's why you shouldn't do it. I thought it was an interesting way to make an argument, because it really shows the atheistic worldview is vapid when it comes to that, and it simply doesn't have the resources and ends up going the other way, making it morally obligatory. I always mess up that word. My pronunciation's not that great, but are you drinking out of the coffee pot?
Yeah, why not?
It's weird because I'm looking at you in Skype, but I'm watching the video delayed, and I just now looked up and saw you drinking straight out of the coffee pot.
Well, I didn't know how long I was going to be sitting here, so what am I going to do? Go get a cup of coffee? I didn't know how long I'm going to be sitting here.
If we're sitting here for like a real long time, are you just going to also use that same coffee pot to pee in?
Yeah, once it's empty and then I have to go. I mean, there you're not even going to see it, right? Because I'll just be like, you'll just see me like...
Just so everyone knows what I drank tonight. this is the end of an Italian soda with cream in it. Peach. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I don't know why people don't at home make Italian sodas more. All you need is club soda. You add some Torani flavor. Take your pick. And if you want to get fancy, a little bit of cream. Oh my gosh, it's excellent. Sorry, anyways.
All right, well, we should probably... You'll have to be getting to sleep here pretty soon, so we should probably get off here in the next 20 minutes or so to keep it under 2 hours. But let's go ahead and see any comments you want to address for the next 20 minutes before we sign out. Here's one. David, do separate live chats with Sam Shamoon, Christian Prince, and Al, referring to Al Fadi here from Sierra. I'm actually planning on getting a lineup of different people to be on. Anthony and John maybe one day on the weekend. Vocab and John one day on the weekend. If we can all line up our schedules. I'd like Anthony one night. I'd really like to get Tony Costa on pretty regularly. Basically want to come up with guys who jump on with the live stream regularly to discuss issues that they specialize in. Because there are some sharp people out there.
You start having Tony and Anthony on a regular basis, man, you're just gonna be shutting down the internet.
These guys are sharp. These are guys who would run circles around me in the areas that they study. It's phenomenal stuff. Hey, what is this? Check this out. Because we were talking about philosophers earlier. Great philosopher, Dr. Jordan Peterson. No. Now, I like Jordan Peterson. I love a lot of the videos he's made. I love a lot of the points he's made. He's great. He's a great psychology professor, right? That's different. The little bit that I've seen on philosophy was not impressed with, and that's not an insult to him. It's not his area of expertise, right? He's an expert in psychology, and his material there is phenomenal, especially when he gets to wrecking social justice warriors. He's just, I don't know, he's got some amazing ability to do that. I've never been impressed anytime he's dealing with an actual philosophical topic.
Who's the guy? I always mess up the pronunciation name. Carl Jung. I think that he's heavily influenced by. That's
a psychologist.
But I think Jung had a lot of these ideas on like religion, and he kind of spoke on a lot of disciplines, if I'm not mistaken, and gets into I don't know how to describe it other than weird territory or strange ideas. But anyways, yeah.
Elizabeth says, do Plato, David. I'm assuming she's meaning earlier when I said, some videos. One of the videos I'd actually like to make is understanding Plato's Republic in 10 minutes. Because Plato's Republic is a good 300 pages long in English translation. But the central argument of the Republic is a brilliant one. And what I mean here is most of what you would read in Plato or Aristotle would not be relevant today, right? We wouldn't take a lot of what's being said in Plato or Aristotle seriously today. There are certain exceptions where something they were saying 3-4 centuries BC are still very important today. And so, for instance, Aristotle's Ethics is still one of the top moral theories that's discussed today. So Aristotle wrote the Nicomachean Ethics, and that's still one of the top 4 or 5 moral theories that's discussed in ethics today. But Plato's central argument in the Republic for why you should always be good, or he's talking about justice, why you should always be just rather than unjust, but he's basically talking about being good. His central argument for why you should always be good, even if you could get away with being bad, is one of the best answers that's ever been given. And so lots of people don't read the Republic because it's a long book. But the main argument, you should be aware of the main argument. And so there are areas of philosophy where I'd like to do that, where here's a book that most people are never going to read because it's a philosophy book or something like that. But there is an argument there that they should be aware of because it's an awesome argument. And so, we'll probably like doing some videos on those topics. That would probably be, if I were going to make a philosophy video, that would probably be the first one. Plato's Republic, because I love that argument. And when you break that argument down for someone, very, very hard to disagree with his central point there.
Yeah, to everybody, I'll vouch. When we were going out to a breakfast and some other stuff recently at ETS, David started telling me about some of the ideas and different things with Plato and how he could explain it to a broader audience. He was able to like quickly, easily do it off the top of his head, just, and it did actually help me understand Plato a lot better. So I do definitely know you'd be able to do it. I do think people would enjoy it.
Hey, check this out. Muhammad says, David's scared of my questions. Now, this is this is funny, right? Because what happened, everyone? What happened earlier, right? We've been on for a while. If you're just coming on now and you didn't see what happened earlier, Muhammad said Muhammad attacks us, starts calling us kafirs and so on. We respond to what he said, explain what we mean. Everyone could understand it. He's the only one who didn't understand the response. And then he starts attacking us based on him not understanding the response. He starts repeating things that we'd already refuted. And then I pointed out that after a while, you just get sick of trying to explain something to someone. And then when you actually get to that point, when you say, look, I've repeatedly explained something that any 6-year-old can understand, and this guy still doesn't get it, so I'm moving on. Then it's, you're scared of my questions. Guys, why does Islam make people like this? Now, to be fair, you could be any position. You could have any position and be like this, right? You could be a Christian and be like this. You could be a Jew and be like this. There are lots of atheists who are like this. You give some basic argument for, exposing a problem in atheism. They don't understand the point and they just start attacking, and then you explain the point and they still don't get it, and so on. So there are people like that, but Islam it seems like a much higher proportion of the population that ends up with this problem, not being able to understand the simplest points. And then when people just get fed up and say, look, I can't keep explaining things to you, you don't get it, you don't understand basic points, then it's, now the person is running from me. Now the person is really scared. Not sure.
Yeah, he keeps on asking some question that I'm not actually fully understanding.
I'm not even reading anymore. I'm not even reading anymore. I just saw that one because I was scrolling through and looking for something else.
I mean, it's just a way to try to get you to deal with this question. I mean, anyways.
Oh, here's one.
We better log off real quick because I got to tell you, David, I'm getting really scared of this Muhammad guy's questions.
Gosh, we've been dealing with apologetics stuff.
Why is Eris Toddler
for so many years? But this guy who doesn't know basic, can't understand simple points. We're terrified of him.
Eris Toddler keeps on telling me to go to sleep. You go to sleep. You're the one with toddler in your name.
Yeah. Philip here says, David, could you suggest a beginner book in philosophy? Doug Gruteis. Doug Gruteis has a good intro book called Philosophy in 7 Sentences. Now, to be clear, the book is longer than 7 sentences, right? He basically takes 7 key quotations from 7 philosophers from very different positions, and he takes a sentence from each one of them and then explains what the sentence means. But he does a good job taking you through a good chunk of the history of philosophy just by dealing with those 7 sentences. So Doug Grutheis, it's actually spelled like Grutheus or something like that. But just look up, if you wanted to look up a book, Philosophy in 7 Sentences was pretty good for a beginner.
Grutheis is cool.
What is
well,
it? Hey,
David.
I love it when people give me advice like this. Search about food as medicine to cure your kids.
Oh, I've seen that person before. They pop up all over randomly. I don't know what the deal is. I've seen that comment with that person before.
No, it's just, guys, it's kind of amazing because people who don't know what the disability is, have no clue how it works, will start naming all of these things. Like, David, just give your kids some, put them in a bath with Epsom salts, and that will patch them right up. Or, just, hey, have them eat this fruit from this country or something like that. And guys, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I want you to stop doing that. Not because you're not hurting my feelings. I don't have normal feelings. But if you go out and do this to other people, there I do want to say, if you're going around suggesting cures to people, you might want to stop that, because if you don't know what you're talking about, then you're not helping, and it comes across as pretty bad, right? So my kids have a genetic disease called myotubular myopathy. It's two of my 5 sons have this. It's genetic, because women can be carriers of it, and but the women will be totally healthy. It's when sons get it, right? The sons are affected by it. Women aren't affected by it. So you can have someone like my wife carry the disease even though she's fine, but if you have 5 sons, roughly half of sons will be affected by it. Now here's how this disease works, right? You have DNA in your cells. DNA is basically a set of instructions for coding proteins, right? It's a blueprint for making proteins, and proteins do all of the different functions in your cells. They basically they keep you alive. So proteins do all of these amazing things. So you've got DNA, and that's the set of instructions. And then what happens in your cell is these instructions are used to make proteins, and then proteins do different things. Well, if you have a mutation, you can have a mutation in the DNA that gives the wrong instruction, right? So it's just like if you had a set of instructions for building a computer or something like that. You could have a misprint that actually messes up the entire computer that you're trying to build or something like that, right? Or if you just have a book that's telling you to do something, and you could have a misprint that changes the meaning of the word, right? So you have proteins, and proteins, so you have your DNA, and if you get let's say a misprint, but that's in this case, it's a kind of mutation where you get the wrong instruction. Now what happens is, now your body is trying to make a protein, but there's an error in the instructions. And so instead of getting the correct protein functioning correctly, you get a protein that doesn't work. And so there's a protein in your cells called myotubularin. And what myotubularin does is, in muscle cells, you have muscle cells, right? Muscle cells are long and thin. And in a muscle cell, which is long and thin, signals go down the middle of the cell. So when you want to flex your muscles or use your muscles, signals go down the middle of the cell, telling the muscle cell what to do. In order for those signals to work, the nucleus has to be out of the way. Right? So you've got a cell, and normally if you have a cell that's shaped like a blob, the nucleus is just going to be floating around in the middle somewhere. In muscle cells that are long and thin, you need the nucleus to get out of the way, or it's right in the middle, blocking the signals that are going down the middle of the cell. So myotubularin, what it does is it makes kind of fibers that pull the nucleus to the side of the cell so that signals can go down the middle of the cell. If you have a mutation, then when your cell, your DNA, is coding for the set of instructions to make this protein, this myotubularin, it gives it the wrong instructions, and the protein is not what it's supposed to be. It's not shaped right. And so when the protein is not shaped right, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It doesn't pull the nucleus to the edge of the cell. And because it doesn't pull the nucleus to the edge of the cell, which is what myotubularin is supposed to do, the signals down the middle of the cell are blocked. And so your muscles just don't work normally. They end up very, very weak. So the problem that my sons have is they have incredibly weak muscles due to problems with the signals, because the nucleus for their cell is in the middle when it's supposed to be pulled to the edge in muscle cells. And it's because their myotubularin doesn't work, because there's an error in the set of instructions in their DNA. So you're telling me, Seeker, that I should go look up some food, right? And I'll just give my kids some food. And it's going to do what? Is it going to repair the DNA? To make the DNA the correct set of instructions? Or is this food going to, is it going to repair the myotubularin? Even though the myotubularin doesn't have the right sequence of amino acids, because the instructions, there's a problem with the instructions. So even though it has the wrong sequence of amino acids, somehow there's a food that's going to what? Make the myotubularin work anyway, even though it has the wrong sequence of amino acids? Or is this food going to just somehow pull the nucleus out to the edge of the cell on its own without the myotubularin? Which one of these things is this food that I'm supposed to look up going to do? And Seeker, I'm not just picking on you. I'm saying this because I get this all the time. I get this again. Oh, just Epsom salts. Really? Epsom salts. Really? Just give my kids a bath in Epsom salts. So these Epsom salts are going to do what? They're going to go in and repair the DNA? Or are they going to repair the myotubularin? Or are they going to do the work of pulling the nucleus to the side? The answer is they're not going to do any of that. Why would you be suggesting these things? Right? I understand if you've done research in some area and you know something about a topic, that you would want to bring forth suggestions, but I just have no idea. Like it never crosses my mind when I hear someone's got a disease that I've never heard of, that, hey, I need to go and toss in my brilliant strategy of telling them about some melon or something like that can fix that. And can it fix it? I have no idea. I'll just bring it up anyway. So yeah, just some thoughts. And again, nothing to do with me. I hear these things all the time. They don't hurt my feelings or anything. When someone brings this up, I think, okay, this doesn't hurt me, but if you do this regularly, because if you're online, you're gonna be encountering people with diseases and so on every day. And if you're running in there spouting information to them and you have no clue what you're talking about, it's just not helping them. So might want to be a bit more careful. All right.
Well, maybe you should just have your kids drink some camel piss.
Camel pee, that would be Muhammad's solution.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to listen, then, it's on you, bro.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
People are right, dude. You need to go to sleep, man.
Hey, he said he was just kidding.
Who?
I saw the live show. Eris Toddler said he was just kidding. He said I look tired.
Who?
I always look
okay.
Eris Toddler, but I always look tired. That's why I wear shades sometimes. See, if I don't wear shades, they complain, okay, you look tired. But then if I wear shades, and they're like, well, you think you're so cool when you have shades on. So no one's ever happy. So just, God bless all of you. That's all I have to say. So, yeah.
I'm assuming I look tired because I actually didn't have much of a problem when we had when we moved here, and we had no nursing because I just adapted my sleep schedule. I started sleeping during the day and staying up all night. And so once my body got used to that, it was no problem. I got plenty of sleep during the day and stayed up at night. But now that we got nurses during the weekdays and I only stay up on the weekends, now the sleep schedule is just off because I'm used to sleeping at night again, except on weekends when I have to stay up all night when I'm used to sleeping. And so, yeah.
So how can we fix this?
Fix what?
Well, you know, the thing. I guess you could go live late at night every weekend to keep yourself awake and drink pots of coffee.
No, I mean, if I'm going to be now, I could be reading or something like that, but this is a good way to stay awake. And if other people are in the same situation, staying awake for some reason, they stay up late, or people are around the world. If anyone wants to jump on and chat for a little while, and what the heck, you're staying up for some reason.
Because I'm an idiot.
I know.
Oh, Stacy Flores says you both look great. Thank you, Stacy Flores. Right back at you, even though your profile is just Jesus, so I don't really know what her profile is just Jesus, so I don't really know. All right, well, oh man, but Vocab looks like Mario with his hat. Yeah, I do look like Mario.
And that ridiculous mustache, although Mario had a way better mustache.
Ever since I've grown this mustache,
people have made fun of you. I know.
I've been able to jump like 3 times as high. Also, I can freaking eat flowers and shoot fire out of my nose now. So it comes with special powers. Oh, hey, and I can kick turtle shells.
Hey, did anyone ever use the Mario Brothers theme song as like a rap?
A rap? Oh yeah. That's
been done.
That's almost. Oh yeah.
Like all the different levels, because you go underground and then it changes. You know, all
the different levels. I don't know about that. I know about the main theme. That's been used a grip of times. You know what though? There's a rapper named Mega Ran. Mm-hmm. This dude, man, the company that makes Mega Man called him up because he would use so many video game themes. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, do you want access to our whole sample library? This dude can use any. I think it's Konami. I forget who made Mega Man. I don't know. I'm not really into. But he can use any of the samples for any of those games. He made a whole album that was just Final Fantasy samples. So people have got pretty deep into it. But I don't know about specifically that. That's a good question, though. That'd be interesting. I bet somebody has. Nerd rap's like a thing now, man. Nerdcore. That's like it's got a little. It's like a little thing, a little industry.
Has anyone ever used the Sanford and Son theme song?
No, not that I know of, but on one of Will Smith, when he was called Fresh Prince, one of his earliest albums, he had a super dope beatboxer named Ready Rock C.
Really? I always thought he sucked, man.
You thought he sucked. I thought he was really good. There's a part where he's like,
got an alarm going.
Okay, I'll let you take care of that. But he's like, do Sanford and Son. He's like, hey, yo, Ready, do Sanford and Son. And then he's like, I can't really do it. Something like that. Now too. Some water. Excuse me.
I always thought Ready Rock C was lame, man.
I didn't. I liked him. I mean, he's no Dougie Fresh, but I enjoyed him. He's no Rozelle.
Well, that's what I mean. Because back then I was comparing him to. He wasn't even like Buff from the Fat Boys, man.
I don't know. I don't know if I like Buff from the Fat Boys that much. He just had a couple tricks. I don't know. Fat Boys. Anyways, but I dig. Capcom, thank you. Aristotle knew. But I liked Ready Roxy. You know who is still amazing? Is Jazzy Jeff. That dude is still a super sick DJ.
He's underrated, right? Because, you know.
Totally.
He was associated with, you know, he's part of this, you know, he's just, you know, he's with the Fresh Prince. But that guy, you know, he would get up there and go toe-to-toe with Jam Master Jay.
What's weird about Jazzy Jeff, a lot of people don't know this, but he's totally respected in the underground.
Mm-hmm.
So like fellow turntablists and DJs, to them he's like a legend because he's always super dope. And not only that, but he still continued on. So he does these really cool things where he gets a bunch of DJs over his house and they make different things and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's like a legit all the way DJ. In fact, the old school kind of vibe with that group of Fresh Prince mm-hmm. and Jazzy Jeff was that Jazzy Jeff carried Fresh Prince. Like that was the soul. That was actually the essence of the group was Jazzy Jeff's skill. And Fresh Prince is kind of like just a goofy party guy. That was kind of the thing, but he's always had respect. Someone has a question, looks like.
That it's like House of Pain.
You love talking about House of Pain. You know, he is a Muslim, and I caught some
not anymore.
Islamic. Well, I'm saying when he was, I caught some Islamic references. I went back and listened to one of his songs, and he actually said something about I'm doing my daily prayers for salvation. He straight up says. He used the word salvation. He said daily prayers for salvation. I got to go back and because I was like, wow, that's a crass, naked, works-based soteriology if I ever heard it.
Well, on that first big album, he said, and for inspiration, I'd like to thank Allah. He gets all my love, and he doesn't believe in anything anymore.
Wait, he's an atheist?
No, well. He might be. He says he doesn't take any religion seriously anymore.
I wonder what the deal is with that.
Anyway, the point of all that was DJ Lethal was the backbone there. You know what I mean?
He's not even Irish either.
Yeah, I'm just saying. With you take Lethal out of there, it certainly isn't Danny Boy carrying the group. You know what I mean? And
it's not, but one day we got to do a show, just one show on this entire topic of how Eddie Dalcour used to be Danny Boy's teacher in California when Eddie Dalcour used to have to be a gym coach and PE teacher. It's a true story.
That's not even cool, man. He's like the lamest hype man of all time.
He was really tall. He had that going for him.
Okay. You get to pick your hype man, Flavor Flav or Danny Boy. Come on, be honest here, right? It's not even close.
Well, no one can ever compare with Flavor Flav. Yeah. Like there'll never be another hype man like Flavor Flav. Like
that's true.
There's just like that's an incomparable. Yeah, Flavor Flav. You just can't even. No. I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean, come on, crackhead with a Viking helmet. Come on, how are you gonna beat that, right? A big clock on his.
Hey, yo, Chuck, man. Yeah, boy!
That's a hilarious dude. All right, Voice of Reason says, David, could you help me start my YouTube channel and start my business? I don't know anything about business. As far as your YouTube channel, for everyone who's starting a YouTube channel, give you a crash course right now. Someone says, hey, ask for the country names again. All right, well, for those of you who are interested in YouTube channels, we'll give you a crash course right now. And those of you who aren't interested, we asked about an hour ago for the countries where you're from. We assume we've got a different crowd right now. So if you want to share where you're from again, and you're new here, if you responded an hour ago, don't worry about it again. But first, anyone, those of you who are new on here, tell us where you're from. All right, YouTube. So, one, you got to get your big idea, right? You don't want to just be posting random stuff. So you want your sort of central idea. You need to figure that out ahead of time because you don't want to just be posting random videos and then decide like a year later what your idea is, and then you've got all this other useless content on here and you haven't been progressing towards any goal, right? Because your target audience, unless people just love your personality and they're tuning in because they love your personality, in which case you could say anything and they'll be cool with that. Unless they just love your personality because you've got an awesome personality or something like that, and it's just absolutely magnetic. You need to have some angle because there are channels around the world tons and tons of channels crying out for people's attention, right? So that's the downside, right? There are lots of YouTube channels, lots of ideas. And so if you're going to get a following, you're going to need some idea of what you want to do, and you're going to have to do it well, right? So, I mean, we talk about this, vocab, and I tell people this because there's a difference between being a speaker and being on YouTube. Because, back in the day, or I mean, even now, just not on YouTube, if you wanted to be an apologist, you would go around and give talks, right? You'd speak in churches and college campuses and so on. If you show up to speak, let's say William Lane Craig, right? So William Lane Craig shows up to speak on a college campus. People are going to go and watch William Lane Craig. And lots of Christians, some non-Christians will go in there. They'll sit down. Once you are actually sitting down at a William Lane Craig talk, you're sort of committed, right? In other words, you've gone over there, you're sitting down. It's going to be work if you decide to get up and leave, right? The people are going to see you getting up and so on. What else are you going to be doing? There would have to be something else to make you go through the work of getting up and leaving, right? So the point is, if you go to a lecture, the vast majority of people are going to stay through the lecture. Even if they decide that they don't like it tremendously, most people are going to stay. On YouTube, you're making a YouTube video. If you're boring or not doing what you're doing very well, there are a large number of alternatives right beside you in the suggested video box that are calling out to people saying, hey, come do this instead. So you have to do something that's popular now is it's called infotainment. So if you're going to give people information, by the way, I have no idea what you're intending for your channel, but if you want to share information, it has to be some sort of infotainment, right? It has to be entertaining somehow. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be, but what is going to set apart your channel from other channels, right? If you're just giving information, you could, in theory, just be giving information way better than other people, and that's what's going to be drawing people to your channel. But if you really want some sort of advantage, it would have to be entertaining somehow as well. So you're giving people information, but also holding their attention by entertaining them somehow. And so, it's basically you got to come up with your idea and then think about how you're going to do it. You probably would want to find channels that are similar to what you want to do and start figuring out, start watching those channels and thinking to yourself, what is it that I like about this channel, and how can I incorporate something that I like and I see in other channels? How can I incorporate that into my own channel? So you would get going like that. One overarching principle, if you're getting started, is don't expect too much too quickly. It takes a lot of time to build up a following. I told John McRae this. He's got his channel, What Do You Mean? And in his first year, he's got like 24,000 subscribers in his first year. And why that's amazing is I think it took me and Nabil like about 3 years to get to 7,000 subscribers. And we had multiple viral videos during that time, right? We had the situation in Dearborn where we got slapped around in Dearborn because Nabil asked a question at a Muslim booth that invited us to ask questions. I did my Ground Zero Mosque video, which got like 3.5 million views. So we had viral videos, and still took us a few years to get to 7,000 subscribers. So that, and by the way, the point I'm trying to make here is going from 0 to 24,000 over a year is amazing. But so for those first few years that Nabil and I are doing stuff on YouTube, it takes a few years to get to 7,000 subscribers. That's pretty slow. I get well over 7,000 new subscribers per month now, right? So it's every month. I don't even have to do anything, even when I'm not making videos. Like I didn't make videos for like 3 months. I'll still get over that. So think about this: what it took a few years to do back then happens every month just naturally now, and so things kind of snowball over time. But basically, your first 1,000 subscribers is by far your most difficult subscribers, and at that level, you have to just fight for every single subscriber, every person you can contact on Twitter, every person you can send your video to on Facebook. Just got to fight for every subscriber, because think about it. You could have the best YouTube video in all of history. You could make the greatest YouTube video in all of history, and you're starting up your channel. You've got the best YouTube video in the world. You put it on YouTube. How is anyone going to find that video? You've got no subscribers. No one's watching it. So it's just sitting there. How are you getting that to people? Well, you just have to work at it at the beginning, and you're going to have to pass that on. You're going to have to pass that on in any way you can, and slowly build up your following. Once you've got a pretty good following, and by good I don't mean you have hundreds of thousands or millions. I mean you've got some people coming to your channel regularly to see your content. Then they can go out and share it, right? They share it with their friends. They share the videos. So those would be some basic ideas. Apart from that, YouTube, there are tons of tutorials on YouTube. So if you just search for starting my YouTube channel, something like that, you can see what other people have learned about their channels. Because look, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel here, right? Other people have figured out what works on YouTube. You don't need to figure this out, because I never watched a tutorial on anything for years. All of a sudden I watched a tutorial and I was like, wait a minute. It took me 3 years to learn that, and here this person has already said it in a video. And I realized, wow, I could have just watched a video on that at the beginning, and then it wouldn't have taken me 3 years to learn how to do that. So it's good. I would say even before you start your channel, go through several YouTube series on all the basics, making a YouTube video, how to do titles, thumbnails, descriptions, keywords, all that stuff. Go through that and then start your channel. But yeah, it's basically gonna come down to if you've got a good idea, and it doesn't have to be some completely unique idea. If you're doing apologetics or whatever it is, there's plenty of room for lots of diverse channels. Just make it good, and just remember, at the end of the day, it's not about fancy graphics or fancy equipment or anything. The basic thing that will help you in the long run is having good content. So make sure you've got good content, and everything else will work out. So
content is king. That's what they say. Content is king.
You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, content is king, like you said. And
you sure about that?
Content is king. And then another thing is collabs, but voice of reason. Let me say something real quick about collabs. I think a respectful way, like the best way to do collabs, is to do it with people who are in your general ballpark of subscribers and kind of where you're at, but are maybe just sort of further along. So I think that's sort of a respectful way. So you're at 500, maybe you ask somebody with 1,500 subs, hey, can we do something? It's almost like, I'm not saying don't ask. I'm just saying kind of consider where you're at and try to think of, okay, what makes sense. And the kind of cool thing is if you start to make people, your friends and partners who are sort of at a similar level with you in general as far as where they're at, and you kind of like come up with a squad of people together, and it's really cool. And that's like becomes like your little YouTube family, and you guys are constantly promoting each other. So, but you have to kind of get out there, and it's almost like you're creating your new networks, because they're sort of established networks, and it may not be you just go into them or whatever, but kind of look around and say, who can I collab with in different things? And lastly, is don't be redundant of what someone else is doing. You know, is something special and unique for you to do. Just don't be repeating something that's already there, unless you're doing it so unique and so different. I don't necessarily mean your content, because there's only so many things to discuss. I'm just saying, don't try to be like XYZ. Do it in your own lane, in your own way. Otherwise, if you're an imitation of somebody, they'll just go watch the original instead. So kind of like make sure your theology shines through and it's good, and your love for Christ and people shines through. But you know what? Let your personality shine through, because it's YouTube and people kind of look for that. And if it's fake or authentic or inauthentic or stilted, I don't know if it'll go anywhere. But David and John McCrae, they are the people to listen to as far as this goes. They're a whole nother level. John McCrae's like a YouTube genius, man, in my opinion.
Yep. I am predicting he's going to, well, I mean, he works full time, but if he can get some spare time to crank out videos, I got John hitting 100,000 next year.
Dang. All right, well, I'm trying to get 10,000 by the end of this year. That's where I am.
Well,
I'm going to get.
It's rougher for you because you're doing mainly live streams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not the sort of thing that
goes viral.
Yeah, it doesn't blow up like that. But yeah.
I'll try to eventually get a couple of videos that blow up.
I'm saying you don't have to, right? You can. It's just you build up a following more slowly, but
right.
Because it's a certain kind of people who want to tune in for live streams, right?
True. Yeah. No, I've been enjoying it though, man. Dope stuff. It's nice to meet all these people on here. You know, it's cool how YouTube can allow you to create a community. It's pretty cool.
Hey, check this out.
What up? What up? What up? What up?
I guess I need to make another video on this. Allah never pray for Muhammad. They bless Muhammad. Correct yourself.
Oh, man, I think there's been a lot of videos on that, but yeah.
No, it's just another area where, I mean, look at the recent video I made. Even Muslim translators are translating hadith passages as Allah prays. And there are situations where it can't possibly mean blessing. It can't mean that. And you know that I could go up to any Arab speaker in the world and say, what does salah mean? What does the word salah mean? Every last Arab speaker on the planet will say it means prayer. Until I say, oh, look what this passage says. It says Allah does salah. And they go, oh, no, it means blessing. Really? Well, why doesn't Allah just say blessing? Right? I mean, think about this. It's like English. If I want to say, hey, let me bless you, why would I say, oh, let me pray for you? Why would I use the word pray when I could just say bless? Right? Guess what? In Arabic, there are perfectly good words that distinguish those two things. Apart from that, if you look at what your scholars say, so if you go to like Ibn Kathir and look up how they're trying to translate this and how the early Muslims tried to translate these passages, I mean, how they understood them, they had no clue, right? They would say, oh, it means show mercy. Oh, it means bless. Oh, it means praise. They're giving completely different meanings for what it means for Allah to do his salah. Why are they giving completely different meanings? Because it doesn't mean any of those. Think about that. If they understood what the word meant, if it was known to Muhammad's companions that when Allah does his salah, it means bless, why did they have all these other different explanations that have nothing to do with that mean completely different things? The reason is they had no clue about that. And Allah's word is supposed to be perfectly clear. So if Allah's word is clear and his followers can't figure out what in the world this is saying that Allah does, because the word that's being used is pray, and they don't want to believe that Allah prays, so they start saying, oh, well, maybe it means this, maybe it means that, maybe it means this, and they can't even agree on what it means. Why? because it doesn't mean any of those things. It means pray. So if you don't like that, you need to take it up with your God and tell him to be a bit more clear next time when he's talking about what he does. But I'm happy to make some more videos on that. Again, this is not just me. Go to my video where I talk about this, and there's way more to say on this issue because there's way more Muslim sources. But even Muslim translators like Aisha Bewley are saying that these passages are talking about Allah praying. So these are these are Muslim scholars of Arabic, professional translators who are saying, yeah, Allah prays. And by the way, in the debate, Muhammad Hijab didn't even disagree. He objected to me saying 2 instead of 4 when what I actually said was 4. So that was his objection. So this kind of goes back, and we should probably sign off here. But this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with when we were responding to comments by Muhammad, where there's this need to just attack and insult, even if you have no clue what you're talking about. And when we were talking to Muhammad, we're bringing up things that Allah and Muhammad clearly say in the sources, and Muslims will attack us for just pointing out what the sources actually say. And here you've got a situation where, you're so stupid. This is how you act towards us. Oh, you're so stupid for saying that Allah prays. Well, what do you do with your own translators who say that it says prays? What do you do with every Muslim on the planet who would tell me in a heartbeat, every Arab-speaking Muslim on the planet who would tell me if I asked them what salah means, would say, oh, it means prayer. What do you do? Are they all idiots? And the answer is no. You've just got a problem here. You don't like to acknowledge that you have a problem. You don't like to acknowledge that there are issues where you really need to think about what's going on in your text. You don't like to do that. And so you just sort of thump your chest and say, everyone's an idiot who thinks this. And no, it doesn't work like that. So you might want to think about how you approach people who are raising objections. Because when your sources say that Allah does salah, and you can go to any Arabic lexicon and it will say that salah means prayer, and your own translators will say that salah means prayer, and you'll basically say, oh, you're an idiot for thinking that salah means prayer because you don't like the conclusion. You need a better approach, man. And, you need more critical thinking skills. So, all right, Vocab, any final thoughts?
The short version is, since the Quran says Allah prays for Muhammad, all we're asking is then, who does Allah pray to? Because he's praying for. So if I pray for someone who is sick, I pray to the triune God. Catholics, even though they shouldn't, will pray for someone and sometimes pray to a saint. And it's not good. Etc., etc., etc. Muslims pray to Allah. If Allah is praying for someone, who is he praying to? That's what's going on there, just so we can see. So, no, I don't have anything else to say other than this has been fun, unique, interesting, and I'm glad to provide the comic relief as well as the mustache.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the worst mustache ever. Close out with Hexitas over here says, someone actually said to me that if Muslim translators translate this as Allah prays, then they are kafirs. So keep in mind, Aisha Bewley. I've probably got 10 to 12 books translated by Aisha Bewley. The Quran, the commentary of Al-Qurtubi. She translated Tafsir Jalalain. I've got stacks of books translated by her. And she translated it as Allah prays, so she's a kafir. Why does she translate it? Why does she translate it as Allah prays? Because that's what the word means. So she's a kafir for saying that an Arabic word means exactly what it means. And notice, if that's what a kafir would do, well, what would a good devout Muslim do? Someone who's not a kafir. Well, You would deliberately mistranslate it to pretend that there's no problem here. And that attitude, my Muslim friends, is why you have the situation that you have with your debaters flat out lying to you over and over again. You want to be deceived, right? You don't want the truth about these issues. You want someone lying to you about what your sources say, about what the Bible says, because it makes you feel better. And I just ask, if your religion requires that, if your religion requires a desire to be deceived and people going out and deceiving you to make you feel better, how can you possibly tell us that this is the truth? Anyway,
real quick, I agree, we're done that, but I got a bunch of people trying to tell me that the Roman Catholics saying I don't know what I'm talking about when I mentioned the saint example. Listen, it's called the intercession of the saints. In fact, you can go on Catholic Answers, which the website is literally Catholic.com, and Father Mitch Pacwa literally has an article entitled "The Bible Supports Praying to the Saints." Father Mitch Pacwa is a really well-known, in fact, he's quite a bright man, Roman Catholic apologist, and his article is literally entitled "The Bible Supports Praying to the Saints." And again, the doctrine is called the intercession of the saints. So I don't know why some of the Roman Catholics are accusing me of not. I love you guys. I think we can have great conversations. You guys support, but I don't know why you're saying this. One guy even said, "Oh, it's weird how the heretics don't know what they're talking about with Catholic doctrine." What do you mean that it doesn't say pray to saints?
Yeah, it's not something we talk about much here, but yeah. Guys, don't act like Umar and Muhammad here, just attacking, even if we're saying something that's correct, right? Because I asked a priest about this, right? I was like, well, if you're actually talking to various saints, or let's say you're talking to Mary, if you're talking to Mary or one of the saints, and many Catholics around the world are doing the same thing, do you believe that Mary or the saints actually hears you? And his response was, well, we believe that God takes our prayer, takes it to, in this case I was talking about Mary, God takes our prayer to Mary, tells her, and then she gets to respond, which was by praying for them. So yeah, I'm. If you're saying no, this is not part of Catholicism, I don't know what you mean. No, not making fun of it or anything like that, but to act like this, hey, we're just making stuff up here. I'll be a little confused here, but we can if you guys want to talk about this, we can go ahead and get our sources together and get some videos together and do it. It's not really an area I'm terribly interested in, but if you're saying this isn't, then okay, we can talk about that.
Oh, there's always something. But hey, good times. This is awesome. You got some great people in here nonetheless. And
all right, well, we've been on for 2.5 hours. I'm going to have to do some taking care of the kids now, and I'll probably be getting to sleep around 9 a.m. So, thanks for helping me stay up for a little while. And if you guys want to do this again in the future, I'm sure I will be up all night again next week. So, talk to you all then. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who came on later, there's a track in the description box, a link to a track in the description box. It's about Muhammad and Aisha. I will have that video up. Should be later. I guess that's today. I'll be making the video. All right. See you guys next time.
Shalom. Peace out.